Hey, Ryan with Premier. So, we are talking crack filling.
Wait. Before we get into this, we got to talk
to
about
add to
prep.
my video is, how are you cleaning your cracks? That's a personal question, Ryan, and I appreciate it if you minded your own business. No, that's not what I meant. How are you cleaning your cracks before you put your rubber into them? No, I did it again. Crack prep is the most important thing for maximum longevity, that and the type of rubber that you use. But how are you cleaning them out? Well, I'd like to show you a couple of tools that we use to clean them out. There's actually something called a crack hoe, and I shit you not, it is a tiny garden hoe looking device that's pointed, and it's for hoeing out cracks. Now, I bought one of these. It was the most ridiculous tool that I've ever owned, other than the fact that I could say I got myself a crack hoe. It's good for nothing. So that's the cheapest method of application. Yeah, that's the cheapest method for cleaning out cracks. The next cheapest and the most deadliest is this thing. This is a weed whacker with a wire wheel blade put onto it, and it will fuck you up like no one else. Okay? This thing has been responsible for breaking more windows, hurting more people than any other tool that I have. And I had a guy with a piece of metal sticking out of his head. One of those things came off and stuck in somebody's head. It was one of my own guys, thank God, and I gave him about 4 seconds to get his shit together and get back to work before I let it get out of control. But yeah, those things right there, bad news. The next, in my favorite, most efficient, and what does the best job, and I don't want to hear about fucking heat lances and, oh, I got a lance that I put on my compressor and it's great for no, that is for getting moisture out. You're not killing any root beds with heat lances, okay? You're just not. You need, when you have balls of crabgrass that are like the size of a fucking golf ball under the ground, heat lances aren't going to do shit, okay? Those roots, it's like, think about it like a forest fire. You know, what happens after a forest fire? Shit always grows back, and it grows back brighter and greener than it was, because now it has the nutrients from the fire. Now, it may look a little fucked up, you know, trees with limbs growing off like this, but, you know. Now, do I think your cracks are going to grow back through your rubber? Well, I'd hate to say no, but I have seen it happen. And here's a picture, if I could dig one up. So what do you use? What do we use? This is what I use. This is a Billy Goat Grazer. And this is a second generation. Because the first generations had Honda motors. They were notorious for horrible air cleaning systems. And what would happen was the dust would get into the cylinder. It would wear down the O-ring, the rings on the top of the piston, and score the cylinder. Oil would get by. It'd start smoking. By the end of the year, it didn't have any power. This new system with the Vanguard motor has a way better air cleaning system on it, and it just, man, it is just it's just a great piece of equipment. This had a twin sister, believe it or not. And that story goes like this. Two of them were sitting on the truck. I get a call, some lady, hey, I'm behind one of your trucks right now. We're in a construction zone. You just left a lawnmower off the side of your truck. Yeah, you just left a lawnmower off the side of your truck. And I go, ma'am, I'm in Newton, and I'm in a pickup, and I don't have lawnmowers. And she said, oh, no, this is your truck. It's a big black truck with a tank. And I just took the number right off the side. And then my heart's like, and I call the guys, and I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? Could you look out the passenger side window and make sure both crack machines are still there? Countdown to panic starts in 3, 2. Oh my God, Ryan. I go, yeah, somebody just fucking called me and told me that they saw it go flying off the side of the truck in a construction zone. Go back. What? Go back. Well, it's not my fault, Ryan. Yeah, it is your fault, dude. You're driving the truck. You're responsible for the load. Okay? Truck driving 101. You're driving a giant piece of equipment. You're responsible for everything on it. Go back and find a $1,200 machine, please. Goes back. By that point, it was gone. I mean, think about it. This thing, they were only going like 20 miles an hour, so the thing wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't any more fucked up. Look at this one. This is a little wonder that was on the side of the truck that didn't get strapped down right and went flying off the side of it while the guys were going around a corner. And, this thing we ran this thing for like 2 years. So I don't know why my guys have such a problem with these crack machines, but this one's the only one now. And it took forever to get it because of COVID. It took like almost a whole year to get 2 of them. And then we get one and they fucking lose it. So that, in my opinion, best way to go about crack cleaning. And when you're pricing your crack cleaning jobs, you want to keep that in mind. How much prep is there? If you prep a crack cleaning job in the spring, and then you have to do it in the fall, the labor is going to be way different because now it's got all that vegetation growing out of there. So be smart when you're putting in your crack filling estimates and tell the customer, like, look, this price is based on this time right now. Should there be vegetation or something like that growing out of it, then the price is going to go up because the labor is going to go up. Now, what I do, especially when I'm doing parking lots that are not too big, let's say it's got 5,000-6,000 feet of crack in it. As soon as I get the job, I go over there with a bottle of Roundup. I pre-spray every crack. It takes me about an hour. Put my headphones in. I just spray everything so that by the time we get there, whether it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, the vegetation's dead. If anything, it's like dust. You can just kick it, That's going to save you a bunch of time versus trying to deal with it being luscious green and in full fucking grow when you show up to do the job. So keep that stuff in mind. Prep when it comes to crack filling, okay? Behind me is my Crack Pro 260, which is honestly the best money that I've ever spent towards any equipment. It is a money maker. If you are on the fence about what piece of equipment you are looking to add to your company or something that you might be trying to replace, I recommend the Crack Pro over any other system. I've had Simline. This is just night and day, 100 times better. The ease at which it works, it's not a recirculating system, it's an on-demand system. The pieces are very common, easy to find if you have issues. I've never had issues with mine, but I was told that they make everything that could possibly go wrong readily available, so you're not held up waiting for parts or anything like that. But I had a guy reach out. I think his name was Pete. And if that's not your name, I apologize. My kid's birthday is tomorrow, and I didn't even realize that. So shows you where I'm at. But Pete asks, how do I quote out bigger jobs for crack filling? How do you measure every linear foot when it comes to doing cracks? And that's a good question because, in my opinion, it's impossible to measure every linear foot in cracks. The short answer, if you don't want to watch the whole video, is you, let's say you got a 50,000 square foot parking lot. You break that parking lot down into smaller sections. So what I did was I'd either take a 50,000 square foot and break it down into a 10,000 foot section if there wasn't really that many cracks, or if it was loaded with cracks, then I would break it down into a 1,000 square foot section, measure the cracks within that 1,000 square feet, and then scale it up, to cover the 50,000. And that will give you a pretty good idea of how to go about doing it, and what you can expect to use for material. Now, that's the other thing. How far is your material going to go? Well, Sealmaster has this little diagram that they keep in their catalogs, which will help you figure out how far you can expect your material to go. I think that if you're selling it on bigger parking lots by the linear foot, it's harder to come up with an accurate price or figure. And what I mean by that is if you underquote it in an attempt to win the bid, because let's face it, we all know crack filling is one of the most expensive parts of this process. So if you're trying to keep your costs down and you underbid on the cracks, and at the end of the day, you wind up using a lot more material than you thought you were going to, you're gonna A, eat it, which is what you should do, or B, you're gonna go to the customer and tell them that there are more cracks than you anticipated and you're gonna need more money, which hopefully they tell you to go fuck yourself. So at the end of the day, you wanna make sure that that you can do the job right and that you're not gonna lose any money on it. So how do you do it? So what we do is, I got this idea from Brad Anderson from B&E Sealcoating Supply. Some of you might know him from the U.S. Seal Coaters room on Facebook. But he gave me the idea to sell pallets, buy and apply a pallet, and come up with a pallet price for whatever works for your company. That way, the customer is guaranteed that all of their cracks are getting filled, and they're saving money based on if they were to break that pallet down into linear feet times what the next guy's going to try to charge them per linear foot. And it's really a great way to sell crack filling. I'll tell you, I've won a lot of jobs that way. I've made a lot of money doing it like that. I'm talking $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 crack filling jobs. So this machine right here is 60 grand. So my first season, I actually bought this machine. Then I got a $40,000, $47,000 crack filling job before I picked the machine up. You had to use my old machine to do it. So I can't technically say that this machine paid itself off. But while this machine was being built, I did get a $47,000 crack filling job. So it's just a good way. And once you have this machine, people are going to know that you have the machine, and it's going to stay busy. I mean, this is why I hook this machine up to the orange pickup truck, because when it's out in the middle of the parking lot and people are like, what's going on over there? They just see the truck, Premier, and they just know Premier is the company that's going to do it. So other ways, other methods of application, you got your speed banders, which in my opinion are good for certain occasions. They're good for doing driveway, little small jobs. Now you might be like, hey, me and my guys have gone out and we've laid down thousands of feet of crack with a speed bander, and that's possible. Just like you can seal a 1 million square foot parking lot with a squeegee and a couple of 55-gallon drums. But how long is it going to take you to do it? Because I can go in there and crack fill 5 times as fast with this as you can with a speed bander, and I don't have to keep going back to the pre-melter to heat things up. The other method of application is MA10s, pushable banders, and those are good. I've used those up until I bought machines. They're just great. But eventually you're going to get to the point where you're doing bigger and bigger jobs, and those banders they're not going to cut it. I started with an MA10, and that worked great, but then I started getting more bigger jobs, so I bought a MA30 pre-melter, and I would melt the material down and then just keep going back to the pre-melter to fill my MA10. Then I bought a second MA10, and we'd get to a job, we'd fill it up with rubber, 30 gallons of rubber, make sure it's nice and liquefied, nice and piping hot, and we'd fill up the 2 MA10s, reload the MA30, and while the 2 MA10s were off doing what they had to do, the MA30 would melt the rubber. But that only worked for the first couple hours of the day, and then you were standing around waiting for material to melt on bigger crack filling jobs. So then I started renting machines like this. Now, most of your vendors will give you an option to rent for $500-600 a day. Sometimes it's cheaper if you buy a pallet of rubber from them as well. That's where a good relationship with your vendor comes in, because you know, they're either going to make it worth it or they're not. So if they're smart, they want you to use this machine. They want you to see how easy it is so that you'll buy one, you know? And again, these are money makers. We can go out and put down a pallet's worth of material in probably under 8 hours. So, I mean, they're a hustler, you know? So, I'm one that suggests that as your company grows, you're going to have to get into using equipment like this. And if you can rent them, great. If you already know that you need one, then get one. Finance one. They're not that expensive monthly for what you're going to make. I mean, I forgot. I think I put some money down on this. I got a pretty good interest rate. But my payments are under $800 a month. I mean, it's under a truck payment, and it's making you more money than your truck is. So it's a no-brainer, in my opinion. I am a firm believer in these pieces of equipment. In probably 2 years, if things keep going the way they're going to go, I'm going to have to buy another one of those, because last year it got to the point where I had to send this out somewhere, and then I needed another rental to go somewhere else. So get one, okay? And it will really help you sell crack filling jobs, because then you can go to the customer and you can tell the customer that you have the right piece of equipment to do the job. Now listen, I'm not shitting on guys with MA10s and speed banders, right? But that's not the most effective way. If you ask the manufacturer, or perfect example, government jobs, state jobs, they require that you have one of these machines and that you apply it in a certain way. So that's pretty much what you tell your customers. Hey, look, I'm going to come here and I have all the right equipment to do this job. All right. Now you might notice the company that you used in the past, did they have a machine that they towed behind their truck, or were they out there with something like they were pushing something like a lawnmower? Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. See, that's a gravity-fed machine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a machine, and it injects the rubber into the crack hydraulically. So rather than the rubber sitting on top of the crack and then having to fall to the bottom and then fill itself back up, this is driven by hydraulic pressure. It blows it down into the bottom of the crack, and then it lifts up the wand. That's how you know that the crack is full. There's very little to no settling unless there's washout underneath it, and it just comes out in a more aesthetically pleasing way, because the banders and the MA10s are notorious for snail trails, and really it's hard to do really tight spots with those, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, let me know, please. I appreciate, you guys. I also noticed that 80% of the people who watch the videos are not subscribed. And, I mean, geez, holy shit. So fucking subscribe.